though. Let's get more on that vote in the House of Commons to overturn the disciplinary findings against senior Conservative MP Owen Paterson. This is how the papers were looking at it overnight. The Daily Mail not at all happy. As you can see, shameless MPs sink back into sleaze. What does The Guardian think about it? Well, this is what The Guardian has been saying this morning. PM accused of corruption as rules on sleaze torn up. And the I newspaper this morning, they're also leading with it, saying Tories rip up Britain's anti-sleaze rules to save guilty MP. Finishing with the Times newspaper, Tories rebel over vote to block MP's suspension. That's how the papers are looking at it. We've heard also from Chris Bryant this morning. He says that the government is behaving like Russia. Conservative MP Tobias Ellwood is with us. Hello to you, Mr. Ellwood. Thanks for joining us. What is the Prime Minister trying to achieve here?
I don't quite know myself. I mean, there's an understanding and sympathy very much for Owen Paterson, particularly given the tragic loss of his wife. But the House of Commons Committee on Standards was very clear in its recommendations, which were supported unanimously. The boundaries between paid lobbying interests and the public role as an MP were breached, and lobbying rules are there to maintain public confidence. And if you lose that public confidence, if the trust in Parliament is eroded, then we are all the worse off. And yesterday, I have to say, there was a deeply uncomfortable atmosphere amongst Conservative MPs when it became apparent that the government was going to whip an amendment to overturn not just this outcome, but actually rewrite the rules as well. So the optics of this, which are reflected in the newspapers today, do not look good. I can't remember a vote when so many of my colleagues, including myself, chose to abstain and not support the government. Our majority was reduced from around 80 to just 18 as Conservatives stayed away. And I know so many colleagues, including ministers, were troubled by the government's tactics. And the government, I say, may have won the vote, but we've lost the argument and indeed some of the moral high ground. And we've got to remember that the bottom line, Parliament's reputation has now been damaged. We must learn from this and remember who we serve. We serve the British people.
There were cries in the House yesterday when the result was brought forward of shame. Do you think that Parliament was shamed yesterday?
I think it was. I think it was a bad day for democracy. We pride ourselves on who we are as a Parliament. We call ourselves the mother of all parliaments. And I think what we did yesterday was lose our way slightly and forget who we serve. We serve the British people. And as I say, that's reflected in the headlines today. Unfortunately, this isn't over. The recommendations that are made today actually take away any lay representation on this committee, and the opposition at the moment saying they're not going to participate. So we're not out of the woods by any means.
Further, Kwasi Kwarteng, who was the minister on my programme in the 7 o'clock hour this morning, he was saying nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. He has a right of appeal. He didn't have that in place. So as a result, this is what we've done. And further, the Commissioner should consider her position. Do you think she should?
Well, I think her position is almost now untenable because, her report was endorsed, as I say, by the Standards Committee, and now it's been overruled by government. I mean, go back to what Kwasi Kwarteng was saying. He's right to say that there isn't a right of appeal here, which you'd get in any other walk of life. And there's also the confusing use of the recall process. That's all said, but you don't then upgrade the system by removing an actual study that has taken place, a report that's been put forward, especially when it's been unanimously supported, including by Conservative members of Parliament.
But it was an exhaustive process, Mr. Ellwood, to be fair, and he had an army of lawyers making his case, and he was allowed to make his case in person as well. It's not as if they just made a decision willy-nilly.
No, I don't dispute that at all, but there is absent the right of appeal, which you would get in any other walk of life, and quite rightly, then, for the process needs to be upgraded. But where I would dispute, and I think many of my colleagues would, and indeed many ministers too, is how unfortunate it is that we've wrapped this up with a particular case. It does look like we're looking after our own.
Although, am I not right in saying that previously Labour MPs have fallen foul of the rules and then have subsequently found themselves in a position where they have been cleared by a committee of their peers?
Yeah, you illustrate an important point, which is why yesterday looks all the more messy. And why we're in this unfortunate predicament today, and it could have been avoided. I was astonished to learn that a backbench amendment was going to be supported by the government in this way. And like I said, speaking to colleagues afterwards, heads were down. It was a bad day yesterday for the Conservative government, and indeed more widely for Parliament.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the front pages, I don't think it's going away anytime soon, is it?
No, it's not. We haven't now got a standards committee to be able to do the exact scrutiny that is expected of us. We're still looking, and at the moment, there's nothing there. But at the moment, it does look like we are marking our own homework.
Okay, thanks for joining us, Mr. Elwood. Thank you.